Christian God or one of those gods.
I haven't asked you anything yet, by the way.
No, but by these questions, that's what we're inferring, a religious sense.
We don't know yet.
No, but if we was to first ask, what is a god, first of all, a god or the god? You didn't ask that. That's what we need to really be doing before you start asking me
not necessarily.
How can I accept your position of a god?
I'll tell you why.
That's not fair.
I'll tell you why. Because if somebody relies solely on materialism, for me to talk about, say, testimony, it's not going to make sense.
No.
If somebody accepts testimony and I give them scientific proof and that person doesn't understand scientific
do
proof.
I believe in something that I don't know what that thing is? I'm going to ask you, what is that thing? You're asking me if I believe in it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do with you. You're asking me what is going to make me believe in this abstract thing I don't understand.
Yeah.
You've got to first explain to me what is that abstract thing I don't understand. Then I can tell you if I believe in it or not. It's like saying, do you believe in some, I don't know, I'll make up a word. You're going to say, what is that?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to try to explain what that is first. And then I'll say, maybe I do or don't believe.
I'm undercutting all that. Because if I'm asking you, believe, I'll tell you, it's not a nefarious thing that I'm trying to do. If we're going to believe, the word belief, I need to first determine what you regard as evidence to help you believe that thing.
Right. So I would say, first of all...
Do you understand where I'm coming from, though?
I know what belief is already. I don't know what a God is. So if you want to ask me if I believe in a God,
right,
the best thing to do is to ask me, to explain to me what that God is, and then I can say to you if I believe in that or not.
Yeah,
it makes no sense otherwise. You're asking me what will make me believe in that. You're trying to set me a trap so that I can tell you what circumstances will lead me to believe in your God, and then you'll try to use that against me to make me believe in it. That's not going to get us anywhere.
You seem to have a preconceived notion about this discussion. It's like a negative bias. But I've told
the way you are approaching it.
Right. It's because I've told you several times before as well. And I've tried to reassure you. Firstly, I'm not here to convert you. I'm not here to make you believe in a God. What I'm trying to do is understand where you're coming from, and then once I understand the kind of criteria that you work under.
Explain to me what a God is, and I'll tell you if I believe in it.
I can do that. I can do that. But the thing is, with certain discussions, sometimes we've had discussions for 35-40 minutes. But unless I know what the person and which angle that they're coming from, it's very difficult to help, because if somebody wants experiential evidence, I can give them scientific evidence. I can give them rational evidence.
We don't need to do all of that yet. We just need to.
No, but I want you to understand where I'm coming from. I want you to understand where I'm coming from, though, isn't it?
I get where you're coming from.
Okay.
I don't think it's the right way. I think if we're going to build a house, we need to have materials.
Right.
And we need to know what those materials are. You're not telling me what these materials are.
I have actually.
You haven't told me what God is.
I'll clarify. I'll do a Karate Kid, yeah? So the materials that we're going to be using is rationality. The materials we're going to be using
is... What God is. That's what I'm trying to say to you.
Now you've jumped something else. First you're asking me the criteria.
These are the things we're adding into them. No, what you're talking about is the tools.
Yes.
Yeah? You're talking about tools. Logic and such, science.
Which is what you are asking,
These are not materials. The materials is what is the God we're going to be chiseling.
Right.
What is a God? That's what I want to know.
Okay.
Then we can start going from there, and then I can say to you if I believe in that.
Okay, then hopefully after 20-25 minutes we're not going to come back to the same point that I'm going to have to determine again, because I've done this before with other people and it's just wasted time. And just like before you didn't want time wasted, that's why I was trying to do that.
We didn't have to waste this much time.
No problem. I don't think it's wasting of time once we understand where both of us are thinking from. If I know that you're a bullet point person, you want to get to the point, I don't think it's wasted time. I now know where you've come from. And that's helpful to me.
I've said this a long time now. I've just said what is a God.
Yeah, but okay, you'll understand later, hopefully.
Sorry, maybe
as we
just being a bit too fast-paced about it.
No problem.
That's all we need to know.
No problem. So to us, if we break things down bare bones, our argument is that there cannot be an infinite regress of dependent things. Yeah. You, me, we're dependent. The universe is dependent. There can't be an infinite regress of dependent things.
Can you prove that?
Yeah, through rationality, through logic.
That's not rationality. You're using the example of rationality to show that things can't regress. I don't know how you come to that.
What's your point? I don't understand.
But you have to prove infinite regression can't happen. How can you prove that?
Yeah, because the fact that you and I are standing here...
That's not proof.
Let me finish the point, isn't it? Let me finish the point. The fact that you and I are standing here and we're dependent. If there was an infinite regress of dependent things, we would not exist.
Why is that?
Because there has to be an end to that chain, and that end to the chain we say is a necessary being. The analogy, the analogy, and this is why it was good that you told me that you like analogies as well, because I can now give you an analogy.
Listen, if you're good, right, this is what I'm saying. If you're going to use analogy as a form of evidence, I understand that. But if you're saying that just because there's an infinite regress, we wouldn't exist.
Let me just finish the point,
The syllogism is missing too much.
It's not a syllogism.
Yeah, if
it's recursive reasoning.
Yeah, it's not helpful. There's no evidence to that. Yeah.
Let me just finish the point. If I am to throw this bottle, yeah, and I need to ask one person if I can throw it, he needs to ask someone else, he needs to ask someone else, and it goes on ad infinitum. Will I get to throw this bottle?
From the example of energy.
Will I get to throw this bottle? No.
What are you saying? You're asking me a question?
Yes, it's a question.
That question as an analogy does not fit. I can give you another analogy. The fact that energy is always renewable and it never ends. It keeps going and going and going.
And I can answer that point as well. But can we first answer this though, isn't it? First, let me finish the point, and then you can critique the point. If I haven't finished the point, what you're doing is you're critiquing something that's incomplete.
I'm going to give one as well. We can keep doing these examples.
You can do that.
It's not going to really prove nothing.
It will prove something if you give it a chance. If you're constantly pessimistic and you're saying, oh, you're going to say this, oh, this is going to this. Sorry?
You just want to accept what you say.
I don't want you to accept anything I'm saying. If you don't want to. Yeah. It's up to you. You have agency, you have free will.
I can't accept that infinite regression.
Can I finish my point? Because you didn't hear the question that I asked at the end. You said yes. So if I am to throw this bottle, if I need to ask his permission, then he has to ask someone else's permission, he has to ask someone else's permission. If that goes on ad infinitum, will I ever throw this bottle?
Yeah, you've thrown it to him, then to him, then to him.
I'm not throwing it, you're not understanding the analogy. For me to throw this bottle, I need to ask his permission. Can I throw it? He then has to ask his permission. Can I throw it? He asks somebody else, can I throw it?
You get to all human beings.
And then if it goes ad infinitum, will I ever get to throw it?
Unless it gets to the last human being, then they'll have to just say...
I said ad infinitum. It continues ad infinitum, infinity.
Okay, yeah, no, you're never able to throw it.
I'll never be able to throw it. So bearing this thing in mind, you're saying you know this example, but I had to say it twice.
It's an analogy. You're trying to give me this analogy. I've already given you one as well.
What analogy did you give?
The one that energy is renewable and it keeps going.
Right, I'm going to answer that because that then goes on to something else. That's going to fit in with the argument.
It's an analogy. If I'm going to break down your analogy and say people here, there might be someone over there that says something else. I'm not doing that with you. So you can't break down my analogy and do that.
Okay.
So I'm saying energy is renewable.
If I complete my point,
that's an analogy for how
if I complete my point
can exist.
If I complete my point, then you're going to understand where I'm coming from. Because you keep preempting, oh, you want to convert me, you want to do this, oh, you want to do that.
You keep giving that example. I've heard your example of how infinite regression is not a thing, it can't exist.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the example.
So do you believe infinite regression of dependent things can exist?
I don't know.
Logically, to the inference to the best explanation.
Well, according to if you're saying your analogy
inference to the best explanation.
If you're saying your analogy is 100% certain to prove that, I'll have to argue with you on that because it's not. Because I can bring up
no analogy is 100% certain. Exactly. The analogy is not the same thing.
Exactly.
The analogy is a way for you to understand the point.
The analogy that I've given is equal to yours. You know what I'm saying? My one can just equally prove you wrong.
Okay.
Just as much as yours.
You're now forcing me to come to your point now, yeah?
No,
so now, because you brought that up twice, so now I'm going to answer your point. Then hopefully we can still stay on this train. You bought energy. Yeah. Now energy by definition is contingent.
It keeps going on and on. It never ends. When one thing is
energy is contingent. Energy by definition is contingent.
What's your point?
I just told you my point.
I don't know what contingent means though.
So contingent is something that can cease to exist, that is composed of parts, and that can...
Energy carries on going.
You're asking me what contingent means. I'm telling you the definition. You stopped me in the middle of that and you're saying no, it isn't. Let me first finish the point. Let me first finish the point. Do you want to listen?
Not really, not to that, because I know where you're going with it. You're going to go on infinite regress your conversation now. Listen.
I'm going to go to infinite regression of the point.
You're infinitely regressing your point now. I get what you're saying.
That doesn't even make sense. How can there be? So you think a point can be? There can be an infinite regression of points?
Okay. Going on and on. Yeah, I get you.
I'm actually not going on and on. What you do is you do a shotgun tactic. You put 2-3 things out there, and it's Brundolini's law that you have to break down each point.
I don't know what God is. Yeah. I don't know if things can or not.
You're not going to know what a God is if you keep stopping me every 5-6 seconds and saying this is going on forever. 6-7 seconds is not forever, mate.
Listen, let me just finish what I've got to say.
Can I do the same afterwards as well? Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah? If you can tell me what a God is, because that's what I've been asking for 15 minutes now, what a God is,
right,
then we can proceed with our discussion. If you want to talk to me about the fact that infinite regression is proven to not exist, there can never be infinite regression,
right,
that's a lie. You can't prove that. You can give evidence to show that might be the case. You can never prove that. So you're saying to me, do I believe in infinite regression? I don't know. That's your answer. So now you can carry on with what you want to say.
Right. So you're saying what is God? Yeah? And you're looking at your watch, you're scratching your head. I'll give you the Islamic. Okay, no problem. Yeah. So I'll give you the Islamic definition of God.
I'm not scratching my head either.
Well, you were before when I think you were getting a bit frustrated.
I did before.
No problem. That's the infinite regression of points as well. No problem. Say he is God the one. We believe he is God the one. Yeah, he's independent. He does not beget, nor is he begotten, and there is nothing like him.
That's what we needed to hear.
That's our definition of God.
That's all I needed to hear from you.
Right.
You didn't need to ask me about all this believing in infinite regression nonsense. That's all I needed to hear.
But the discussion I said to you was, can we discuss a number of points? Your one point was God, but for me to kind of bring this point forward, I needed to bring some other things as well.
No, I just needed to hear that.
You can't tell me what I needed to bring or what I didn't need to bring.
No, because I just asked you one question.
Right.
You was trying to swallow.
Well, I asked you questions as well.
Well, let me finish. You're asking me all these questions about, you know, do I believe? What's belief to you? How can do you accept testimony? What is your way of criteria for understanding things and whatnot? Yeah. I just said to you, I don't need to know all that. You just tell me what a God is, and then we can go from there, and I'll tell you if I believe in it or not. Like, you're trying to answer me all that stuff.
Right, do you believe in that God?
Then we got there in the end.
It's an umbrella.
Yeah, then we got there in the end. And you ended up telling me.
He's actually putting it over your head so you don't get wet.
That's the point.
I wish I had someone like that.
If I had an umbrella, I'd do the same.
Now that we know, now that you've told me.
The fact that you even said that, I feel like there's an umbrella over me.
Here we go, you got one for you.
You asked, bro. Allah bless you.
So now that you've told me that, what is it, all powerful?
You have a nice smile, by the way.
Thank you. You think God is all powerful, all knowing, omnipotent,
all wise.
All wise. Is there 99 names for God?
There's 99 attributes of God, yes.
Right. So now, what I would ask in return to that is, how do you reconcile that, God having 99 attributes, with the argument
at least 99 attributes.
At least 99 attributes, with the argument of the Trinity about how God has three hypostases? Would you say that they're not the same problem?
No, because they believe that God, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are three, but they're one in essence.
Okay. All right.
They believe that they're co-equal, co-dependent.
Okay. And you think that the all-knowingness of God and
all one, yeah,
they're all aspects of Him?
Yeah, they're qualities.
Descriptions, yeah.
Is God all one?
Is
God one thing?
God is one, yes.
So inside that one God is all of these attributes?
These are, for example, you're one individual. I can call you handsome, I can call you strong, I can say you have a nice beard. That doesn't mean you have now become a multiplicity. It just means you're one individual that can be described in many ways.
I would say I'm a multiplicity. I've got hands, I've got legs, I've got eyes, I've got 5 senses.
Do you believe you're multiple people?
Well, I can be, yeah, because my personality changes. So I can change from one personality state to another. These personalities...
When I say, let me just clarify, when I say multiple people, I'm going with the dictionary definition of a person.
Yeah, what is a person then? What's the dictionary definition of that?
Yeah, somebody that has 2 legs, arms, what? No, like a Homo sapien.
I don't think that's what the dictionary
Homo
says.
sapien.
There's person and personality. Those 2 words to me indicate character.
No problem. Human being then.
Yeah, like I said, I think that I go through different personalities.
Do you believe you're one human being or multiple human beings?
I'm one at this moment in time now, but I might change to something else later on.
You could be another human being.
Yeah, completely different.
With another name.
When I wake up in the morning, I'm agitated, different human, man. Like.
So your name is James, you said? James. So you could wake up tomorrow and you could be Philip.
No, you're talking about my name. I'm talking about my character and personality. They're different things.
So if you can wake up a different...
one name, but many attributes.
Yeah.
Many characters. So you've got the all-knowing.
But you said you could wake up one day. I'm just trying to understand your point. You said you could wake up one day and you could be Did you say I could be a completely different person?
Yeah, yeah.
So surely a different person would identify something different, would want another name, would attribute as something else, because that's a completely different person, isn't it?
I don't know. You're trying to think to be a bit technical. No, the name doesn't mean who you are. The name is a name for you.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So when you're saying God is all powerful, is that His name?
That's His quality.
Does it say name or quality in the Quran? When it says
They are attributes. They are attributes of God.
Because I was reading it actually yesterday.
Yeah.
I can't remember where it said it. I'm very vague with it. I'm not very good with it. It said I looked at it properly to find out if it said aspect or name.
Yeah.
It said name.
Yeah.
That He has 99
Names, attributes. It doesn't really make much difference.
Doesn't make a difference, does it?
Yeah.
No. So my name doesn't make a difference to who I am.
Right.
Right. That's the point. So now my attributes is who I am. What I do, how I behave and how I act, those things is who I am. And those things change. So in a sense, I am a changing being. There are multiple personalities within me that can change and become different things at different times. So in that sense, I would say...
I wouldn't say you become something completely different though. You're still a human being, isn't it? It's still within, you'll still be within the scope of a human being. So here what we're saying is that there is a father, that's something completely different. The Son is a human form, that's something completely different. And a Holy Spirit, which is something completely different. So you could still be a human being.
Because they would say that
that's fine, and you can.
I think they would say that they're one being.
Yeah, they believe that but they believe that they're co-equal. So when Jesus was here, He would pray to the Father, which was in essence Him. When He died on the cross, that's the Father dying on the cross, Holy Spirit dying, Him dying. So again, it becomes...
So when God has various different names, and 1 minute He's all powerful, next minute He's,
no.
You don't think that that's Him being different in different times?
No, because...
The same God, just doing different things.
No, because what you're saying is the attributes are time specific, but we don't believe that. We say He's all powerful all of the time. He's all knowing all of the time. Do you see? It's not time specific.
Okay, cool. So, is there any monotheistic ideas in Islam? Polytheistic ideas in Islam that believe that there's multiple gods, not just one God?
No, we believe, in fact, that's the greatest sin, to believe a multiplicity of gods or to associate a partner with God.
So God having different attributes is not saying that God has a multiplicity?
No.
No?
No.
I would say it does, but I don't know.
Now how though? Because
you're saying it has different parts, so it's a multiple thing.
We're not saying, we're not saying that they're parts. We're saying they're attributes.
Yeah,
for example, let me give you an example. This bottle, it's plastic, it's blue, it has a base, it's a ring. So these are all different qualities, or names, or qualities, but it's still one bottle. I can take the blue thing off. The blue thing is not another bottle. Do you see? So with God, He's most kind, most merciful, the most just, and those things are not independent of Him.
Can one thing have multiple aspects?
What do you mean?
Like your wife can be beautiful, sexy, lovely, honey, sweetheart.
Yeah, like an elephant can have a tail.
But I needed to know your point of aspects. Like, what do you mean by aspects? What do you mean by aspects?
What you were saying about the bottle, that bottle is one thing with multiple.
So qualities and names, yeah?
That's what aspect is. A part, a quality, or a name, a condition, or a state.
Okay.
Yeah?
Right.
So that means that there is a multiplicity in that one thing. That's how you got to see it. Like, that one bottle has a multiplicity.
Yeah, but a multiplicity of what though? Of qualities or of essence?
Qualities.
Yeah, so there can be a multiplicity of qualities, but the essence is still one.
What's essence?
Essence is what the thing is.
So the isness of a thing, like what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is God? He has one essence.
Yeah, so
what
God.
Is his one essence?
What do you mean?
He is one thing. It's what it is.
Yeah.
Say that bottle is, what it is.
Yeah, He is Allah. He is God. That's the being.
That's a name to me. I don't know what that is. That's a name.
Yeah, but when you're saying what is God, like I don't understand what you're asking.
Yeah, that is our whole conversation.
Yeah.
What is God?
But I already gave you that definition of what our definition of God is. So I want to understand.
No, you've given me His attributes.
No.
That bottle is a bottle, but it has blue, it has this, it has that.
No, I said he's one. Yeah. He's independent, does not beget nor is begotten, and there's none like Him. That's God.
Yeah.
That's our definition of God.
Yeah, so that He has a multiplicity. He has many aspects.
No, those are descriptions of God. That doesn't mean no, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to put me in a corner.
I'm not trying,
but
I'm just trying to
you are,
understand
because
what
you
mean.
keep
I don't get it.
you keep saying multiplicity, but that's something that we don't accept in the
But
slightest.
it is what it is.
It's
You
not.
can't deny
That's not what it is.
There's many parts to God and Allah. He has a multiplicity. There's
So-
many parts
so-
to
so
his
if I'm-
bottle, it has a multiplicity.
No, they're
You're
not
saying just
parts.
because it has one essence. You
I didn't say
I
parts.
can say the universe has an essence. Does that mean that we're not all different
Did I say parts?
within it?
Did I say parts with the
Parts
bottle?
and, parts and attributes and aspects and all these things.
No,
are the same
you
word.
slipped parts in there now.
Say
I didn't
what
say
you want-
parts.
Whatever word you want to use then. Aspects,
Yeah,
whatever
as
you wanna use.
attributes,
It means the
names.
same thing. It means the same thing.
Attributes doesn't mean that, okay, now, so you've got, for example, a bottle. If it's blue, that blue is not the bottle.
It's a part of the bottle and it's also an attribute of the bottle.
That's a description of the bottle, but that's not
It's a
the
descrip-
bottle.
No, it's not a description of the bottle. It's a description of an aspect of the
So
bottle.
if it's not a description of the bottle, then what is it?
It's a
If
description
I
of
say
the
there's a
aspect of
blue,
the bottle.
right,
That's one aspect of the bottle is the label.
Right.
That aspect of it is
so if I now take it out, does that mean that I have a
You have
bottle
an
in my
aspect-
hand?
You have an aspect of the bottle in your hand, yeah.
Yeah, but do I have a bottle in my hand
You
though?
have an aspect of the bottle in your hand.
Yeah, a bit of the bottle in my hand.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a
So
bit
what's
now.
your point
Part.
about the Trinity?
So a bit and a part are the same, yeah?
In what
You
context?
just said bit now. This is what I mean. You can say many different words for this one word. It's
Yeah.
the same word.
Yeah.
Part, bit, aspect. All these things are the same.
Right.
That's what, we don't need to go down that road.
But you're going down that
you
road.
Have, you did. You said it's not the same. You was like, no, I didn't say.
Yeah,
you
that's
are saying
because
part now.
yeah, that's because when you're trying to say, oh, is God a multiplicity? This is a multiplicity.
Yes.
Then I need to
God has
find
parts.
out.
God has aspects.
Yeah, now you're making a claim.
That's what you're saying, because you're saying a bit and
When
a
did
part
I
and
say
aspects
God
are
has
the same
has
thing.
parts?
When you said an aspect, a bit and a part are all the same
That's
thing.
why I'm constantly asking
If
for
God has
definitions,
aspects,
and
then
you're
he also
saying,
has a bit and a part.
yeah, when I say, okay, define that point. No, we're being pedantic. No, we're doing this, but then you keep coming back to this
No,
point.
I'm just
Oh,
addressing what
it
you
is
said,
parts.
because I was trying to give my example, and
Right.
you interrupted me, saying I didn't say part, and we have to now.
That
go
was a
down this road.
clarification. It was a
Yeah, and
clarification.
we've just gone down this road now to explain
Which was
that-
important.
to actually explain that you do think a part and an aspect and a bit, and any other word you want to say in that context is the same thing. So I'm asking you,
Hmm.
does God have aspects or parts or bits or any of those things?
I said this right at the beginning. He has qualities and names.
What's a so quality? Is that a quality of the bottle? This blue thing?
Yeah, the blueness is a quality of
And
the
it's
bottle.
also an aspect and a part and a bit of it.
Why are you bringing in
Because you're
constant
just saying
4-5?
different words of
I
the same
haven't.
things.
You keep saying it, and you keep planting it
You're
on
saying
me.
It's a character now.
Okay,
You're saying it's a,
quite
it's
simple.
It's a,
Quite simple.
whatever you said, just do
Quality
different words for the same
and
thing.
name.
Yeah, quality.
Have I mentioned anything else now?
Quality.
Because you love planting things on me
you've said
and then
it.
getting frustrated. Oh, it's going on ad infinitum.
No, no one's doing that.
Quality and name. You asked me what is God. I said 4 things.
It
Yeah.
has qualities. Yeah. Yes or no?
What has qualities?
God. Allah.
Yes.
Yes, right. Is that
Qualities
what is a
and
quality?
names.
What is a quality?
Minimum 99.
Right.
Right.
Loads of them. What is it? What is a quality?
An example of a quality is like the most
say
kind,
an aspect,
the
innit?
most merciful. So now you're bringing an aspect.
Go on, let me get my water. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Did you want water?
No, I've got one.
Okay.
Yeah, carry on.
What do you mean carry on?
For you, yeah.
So you're saying, does God have
You was doing these
attributes?
4 bits,
Yes.
yeah. These 4 parts or fingers.
What? So yes, God has attributes and names.
Okay.
Minimum 99.
No, he has an attribute.
I'm not going to say extra words because sometimes you put them
I want to
in.
know what an attribute is. Then.
I gave you an example of an attribute. The most kind, the most merciful, those are examples of attributes.
Can I have a material word example for it? Because you're saying an attribute is sort of a power and knowledge. You know,
And an analogy.
But we've also said that this is an attribute of the bottle. So it's not just powers and abstract things. It's physical things as well. So in the physical sense,
When it comes to God,
nothing's physical.
nothing's physical. Yeah. In fact, the last thing that I said is "Walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad," and there is none like Him. Yeah. So if the mere fact that I'm making an analogy, that's why I wanted to get the points and the words very clear, because here would be a disanalogy, because I can't compare a bottle to God or qualities. If
What I was saying is that when you're doing that,
when we were going, let me just finish the point, yeah, because the thing is that when we're dealing with definitions of words, the analogy of the bottle was coming when it came to the definition of words. not when it comes to the definition of attributes of God. The two are separate. I can't use the analogy of a bottle when it comes to God.
No, you were saying the bottle is
If
one
I
thing.
did that, that's false and that's incorrect.
Yeah.
If I gave that impression.
All right, so we'll scrap that example of God then.
No problem.
So an attribute of God is
Mercy.
mercy, yeah? But an attribute in itself, what is an attribute? Like, does it mean a part of something, or an aspect of something, or a condition of something? What is an attribute to you?
What is an attribute to me?
Yeah, what does that mean?
It's very simple.
Okay, tell me, I'm done.
The Creator is most kind. That means if I'm going through something, I'll get that support, I'll get that kindness from Him.
Giving me examples of attributes, but what
You
is
s-
attribute?
no. You said what is it to you?
Yeah.
I've told you what it is
You're
to
giving
me.
me an example of an attribute.
Yeah.
How do you define the word attribute? What's your
What, the
definition?
dictionary definition?
Yeah. Your word,
I don't
your
have a
word.
dictionary on me.
So you don't know what the word.
I don't know the dictionary definition of that.
Should we look?
You can if you want.
Third signal.
Quality or feature regarded as a characteristic.
Quality, feature, characteristic. All of those things we was trying to say from the beginning. So if God has those things, if God has a character, God has a quality, God has 99 of them.
All right.
Do you agree with this or not?
What's your point?
No, I'm just trying to say God has aspects and He's a multiplicity.
Do you see?
Yeah, that's what
Come back to
multiplicity
it.
is.
Do you
Come
see?
back to it.
Do you see what
No,
he's saying?
if you like it or not, that's the case. That is how it is. So
That's that I don't agree with that line of reasoning.
you don't have to, but I'm afraid that is how it's turned out.
When you say multiplicity, are you trying to say we believe in multiple gods?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying multiple.
Then we're in
aspects-
agreement here.
Multiple aspects in one God, like a Trinity idea sort of thing.
Okay, you seem very hung up on
I'm not Christian, by the way. I've got no issues with anyone, any religion or anything, so I'm not hung up on nothing. I'm just trying to understand.
I don't understand why you're
What I
kind
said, I'm
of
trying to understand the
really
similarities, not the
why I don't understand why you're bringing Trinity into the concept of Islam and saying, look, you also believe in multiplicity.
Because-
Here's the
no, no,
definition.
no.
Here's this. Here's that.
Because I'm
You
trying
also
to
believe
see,
in
like I said to you a
multiplicity.
minute ago, I said I'm trying to compare religions and see how they're similar, not dissimilar. I did say
Right.
that to you, do you remember? So
Right.
that's where it's coming from.
Right. So when you say multiplicity, do you understand? So what do you understand about the Trinity so far?
I'll have to talk to a Christian about it to get there.
That's why I'm saying, what do you understand so
I've
far?
understood that it is three.
Because you're asking me about the
Same
Trinity.
thing, three aspects in one being. And that's how we've just said 99 aspects in one being when it comes to Allah.
So according to your understanding, when Jesus came down, when Jesus was here, eating and drinking, because you have an understanding at the moment of a Trinity,
the
isn't
idea
it?
of a Trinity, yeah, that concept. Jesus,
Right.
the Father itself, I don't
Right.
know. The idea of a Trinity or three things being in one concept or one being, that I understand. And that is very
But
similar
you-
to
but
the
you said at
concept
the
of the
beginning-
99 names of Allah,
Right.
which is 99 aspects in one being. But the Christians say that there's three aspects
Right.
in one being.
At the beginning, you said
They're different arguments.
you were talking about logic and reasoning. I don't think this is compatible with logic and reasoning when there's three and then a person says they're not three, they're actually one. Then they say the man that came.
That's what you said about Allah, it's one. It's not 99.
I didn't say that there are three. I didn't say there are 99 essences and they're all.
Characters, attributes, all of this.
But that's the thing though. What do they say about the Trinity and about each one?
I don't know, you tell me. I don't know, I'm not here to discuss exactly the Christian position. I'm asking you.
But you said
is it
that's what they
similar?
believe.
Yeah, that's what they believe.
You said first you say I don't know, then you say that's what they believe.
Three ideas in one being, that's it. I don't know what the God is, what the Father
They don't
is.
say three ideas.
I don't know what the Son is, all of this. That idea there is a theological idea. You don't have
Yeah.
to be a Christian to understand that.
Right.
So I know that the three aspects in one God is what they believe.
Okay.
That's their position. as
Let
far
me
as I'm
make the
concerned.
distinction now.
And that same thing is with you.
Right.
with the 99 names.
So you're saying that with regards to the Trinity, Then when we go in the Trinity, you say, I don't know, I need to speak to a Christian. So let's just leave it there then. Let sleeping dogs lie then.
That theological idea there is exactly the same as the idea of 99.
But you don't know though. You said you need to speak to a Christian.
Aspect, no, but you're asking me what God is and what the Father or these things I don't know. That's what I don't know. The theological
But that's the
concept
definition of the Trinity. There's three in the Trinity.
The idea of three aspects or three powers being in one being is what I'm using, borrowing from Christianity.
Three powers.
Yeah, three aspects.
Three distinct powers.
Yeah, three things in one being.
No, three powers.
Yeah, we'll call it
Three
powers.
wills.
Yeah, and not in the will sense, because power has many definitions. So, the power
What about
in the sense-
wills? Do you
I don't know.
do you think that they believe in three separate wills?
I don't know.
Okay, now I'll tell you the Islamic concept. Islamically, if there was a multiplicity of gods, their wills would collide. For example, can the wills of Allah collide? No, because Allah is one. However, in the Trinity, if the Father wants the tree to be red, the Son wants the tree to be green, and the Spirit wants it to be blue, my question to the Christian would be, what color is the tree? Do you see my point?
You're saying that three things can't have one will each.
If there is three distinct things with three different wills, they would conflict. So my question to the Christian, what do you think would be their answer? Red, green or blue?
Well, no, because the society is full of people that have different willpower, different wills, and they comprise to make one.
You're starting something else now.
That's an example.
No, we're talking about divine. We're talking about gods. Yeah, or God. I'm saying the will of God. Yeah, the reason why we believe in one God, if there were a multiplicity of gods, those gods, even according to the ancient religions, like Hinduism, Brahma, Vishnu,
That's the three in one, yeah.
Shiva, and then even Parvati. Parvati created Ganesh. Parvati was the wife of a god. Ganesh was created by Parvati.
What does Ganesh symbolize?
I'm not talking about what he symbolizes. At the moment, my point is multiplicity of gods. So Ganesh was there guarding the door of Parvati. Vishnu came. He wasn't allowed in. Shiva came. He wasn't allowed in. Then they went up to Brahma and Vishnu and said, you know what? There is a force down there that could rival your force. They sent an army. Then Parvati also brought an army as well. Yeah, in fact, she manifested an army. The army came from her. Then there was a fighting of the gods. The war was ridiculous, yeah? It went out of control. Clash of the Titans, different wars, different gods warring with each other. Even like Thor, Marvel, yeah? So that's the argument that Islamically we bring forward. If there are multiple gods, there would be multiple wills, and those wills will conflict, and ultimately we would pay the price.
I don't think so, man, because I think in Greek mythology and Hindu mythology, they've managed to make a proper sensible religion out of it and mythology out of it. I mean, everyone's still alive.
Greek mythology, do you believe that's a religion?
It was a religion back in the day, yeah, in their day.
Is it a religion though?
It was a religion, yeah, in their day, yeah, it was.
It was a belief.
It was a religion.
Right.
Greek mythology was a religion.
Right, they believed it to be a religion.
Yeah.
So you had Zeus, who's fighting with this.
Religions about it, yeah. So different ideas.
So gods fighting with each other.
And then Plato came and kind of formulated them all into what we're doing now.
Plato,
yeah. After
right.
the Greek gods stage, Plato came and made it more understandable. He done to the Greek mythology what scholars do to Christianity in a sense. They reveal it and make it understandable. But Plato did it in a way that reduced its religious content and elevated its philosophical content.
But you accept the fact that Greek gods were fighting with each other?
The Greek gods in Greek mythology fight,
Yeah.
Titans.
And it affected this planet.
Well, they say that there's a correspondence between the heavens and the earth in ancient Greek mythology.
But they believe that people on earth suffered as well.
Affected by, yeah, but what you're saying, right, so the suffering that happens today, you account for it by saying it's human will. Yeah? Human will is making us suffer. What we desire, what we do, causes our own suffering. Yeah? But the Greek mythology would say that suffering is dictated by sort of, it's set in stone, law and order. They believed in chaos and cosmos, which is order and chaos. Chaos and order. So they believed that everything was arranged and formulated by the gods. That everybody would have a part to play in the story of life. So it was more, they was connected to their religion in a more truer sense. So they thought that how the religion was is how it will be here. But what you say is that we decide our fate. But they believe that it was their.
That still doesn't detract from what I said. I was nice and I was enlightened by what you said. Yeah, but the point still stands. There were multiple gods. They were fighting each other. People on earth suffered.
Yeah, but
that's the bottom line.
Suffering is always happening though. That's the bottom line.
There's a difference. There's a difference between. There's a difference.
Wait, you account for it through Islam. They accounted it through the gods.
I heard your point. You're just repeating the point, yeah? So me falling over is suffering.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, that's not equated with Zeus fighting with the god of the rivers.
I'm not saying that it's not. I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying that.
No, I'm saying that suffering of two gods fighting is not the same as me scraping my knee on the floor.
Yeah, but you can't say that. You know, I'm saying that suffering exists anyway. That's the fact. That's the bottom line. And Islam is there saying that it happens because of this. The Greeks are saying it happens there because of that. I'm not arguing either position. You can take your position and say, you know, we suffer because we do it to ourselves. You know, the Greeks are saying they suffered because of fate and destiny. That's their decision. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying those are the positions.
I wouldn't say the two sufferings are the same. One suffering of someone getting cancer, another suffering of a thunderbolt coming by Zeus and knocking out like half the continent is ridiculous.
No, that stuff didn't happen in their life.
How do you know? Did you read their books?
Yeah, I've read the Greek mythology.
Right.
That stuff didn't happen in their days.
So Zeus didn't send punishments on planet Earth?
No. That's not. That never happened in ancient
Of course
Greek
it did.
days. It was a mythology. They believed it as a mythology.
What's a mythology?
It's a made-up story.
It's a story pertaining the past.
Yeah. No, not really. It doesn't have to pertain the past.
So it pertains the future.
It could be. Yeah, mythology could pertain the future. Yeah, it could be a predictive mythology.
Yeah, but if it's a theology, then generally speaking, if it's to do with the future, it's going to be a prophecy.
Yes.
If it's based on the past, it's a mythology.
Really, I don't think mythologies have to be based on the past. I don't think that at all. Mythologies can be based
if we're dealing with a set of values and a religion and a belief, if they're talking about something that's happened by definition is something in the past.
I don't know how.
No problem. It's a small point anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't think that's even relevant. But
no problem.
What they believed is that they used their religions, what they believed in the books, to dictate to them how suffering occurs to them. They never lived through thunderbolts. They might have read about it and maybe it happened in the past according to their books. Whatever. That's not the point.
That's the point.
No,
what you just said.
No, it's not.
Maybe it happened in the past.
Yeah, maybe.
That's where mythologies come from. Something.
The argument is about suffering. How they go through their suffering.
No. What you've done is. Yeah, go on.
They never got hit by lightning. They never got.
How do you know?
Because it's not in the recorded history. All right, we don't know then. But come on, if we're going to do that, we don't know that there wasn't ever a Muhammad then.
What?
If you're going to say how do I know,
right?
Then I can say to you how do you know that there was a Muhammad.
I can give you evidence that
but I can
the
give
prophet.
you evidence of the old stories of the
Well, go on then.
back in the day. Well, I've read Plato. I've read.
Plato is somebody saying something is not evidence.
It is evidence. He talks about his way of life during his day. So I think that would be very good evidence. Even if
so if someone says something, that's good evidence.
It's evidence. It's not proof. It doesn't 100% determine it, but it's evidence. Just like you don't have 100% proof.
I've got stronger evidence than that.
Whether it's stronger or not, I don't know. You're doing childish talk now.
No, I don't think so.
No one's trying to prove.
The childish talk was from you because you said, "Oh, then I can say the same. Muhammad didn't exist."
You're definitely deflecting.
No,
Listen,
the Prophet. I'll tell you that we have manuscript evidence, we have markings, we have coins, we have graves.
Archaeology can tell you probably a more.
Can you do the same with Zeus?
Archaeology can tell you a more precise history of the ancient Greek life than what you can find out in the Middle East.
No, that's ridiculous.
Right, well, you've got to prove that.
I'll tell you why. Because the Arabian life was 1400 years ago, and Greek life was further back.
But I would say the intellectual, the writings, the scripture, and the scrolls, and the literature was much more in ancient Greek days than in that.
No, I'd say we've lost more from the ancient Greeks. The writings of Socrates. We've actually lost that.
Actually, it was the Islamic people, the Muslims, who preserved the Greek texts, as far as I'm concerned. That preserved Plato, that preserved even the early church father documents. And all of this stuff was because they revered the Greeks, and they called Aristotle the philosopher.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So you can't turn around and say, the life of the Greeks was wrong and the lives of
I didn't say the life of the Greeks were wrong.
You said that their beliefs were wrong.
No, I said Greek mythology.
Yeah.
It's in the name, it's mythology.
Yeah,
If we say, I believe in Islam mythology, oh, okay, that means obviously
That's not what we're
it
arguing
didn't
about.
happen.
We're arguing about suffering. We're arguing about, you know, what caused
No,
their
we're not
suffering
arguing
to
about
take.
suffering.
Yeah, yeah.
You brought suffering into
No,
it.
that's what you were saying.
No,
You were saying
no.
that
You brought
they got
suffering.
hit by a bolt of
No,
lightning and
let
that's
me
their
go
suffering.
back to my point. My point was that if there is a multiplicity of gods, they would have multiple wills, and when they're fighting, it would affect us.
Yeah, that's what
And that was
suffering is,
an
what I'm
example that I gave. And from that example, you then went on to a form of suffering, which is human suffering, yeah, which is amongst ourselves. I'm saying if gods are fighting with each other, like the Hindus actually believe, literally gods were fighting, like wars took place between the gods.
Then we're going to suffer. Yeah?
That's an
Right, but
example
we're
that I
suffering-
gave.
But we've been suffering for this long anyway. What are you talking about?
I'm
Sorry.
not talking about our suffering of cancer, tuberculosis, falling over. I'm talking about two gods fighting with each
When
other.
Islam came about, yeah, and that doctrine was put in the world, did suffering reduce?
Yes.
I don't know about that. I think suffering's been going
How
on.
do you, if you don't know about that,
Can you prove
right?
it? Can you prove that?
Yes.
How did suffering reduce in the whole world by Islam coming around?
Okay. Can I answer that question now? Yeah. Okay. So moral, at the time that Islam came, society was on a moral decline, especially in the Arabian Peninsula. People hadn't really understood the concept of modesty. They were doing tawaf, like going around the Kaaba naked. They were burying their daughters alive to such a degree that the two dominant empires on either side of Arabia didn't even, they were conquering crazy, but they didn't bother conquering Arabia because those people were so ignorant. When the Prophet came, he gave rights to the women. He taught
Which
the
women?
people,
All of the women in the world.
he gave right to the women,
Which women?
all the women in the
I
world.
don't think so, because Aztec America never had no contact with Islam.
No, that doesn't, because you're going with a principle and then you're conflating it now with application of that
No,
principle.
you said that the whole
Can I
world-
finish my point?
You said the whole world
Can I finish my point?
declined its suffering.
Can I finish my point? I'll tell you, because again, it's that shotgun tactic. I'm going to finish my initial point. If today you want to see how Islam has impacted, let's compare morally. Yeah, let's look at the Muslim majority countries and let's look at the Western countries. Rape. Muslim majority countries have less rape, have less murder, have less abuse, have more happiness, less suicide,
But I don't
less
think- I
depression.
think you're
Have I answered?
No, you haven't answered.
You said, has life improved?
It hasn't improved though, not because of Islam. Definitely.
I've just given you 7 things.
You've just said me a few
On
things that have
Muslim
happened,
majority
nice
countries.
things that happen in the world that have-
No, they're Muslim majority countries,
Yeah, yeah.
and they're in our texts. When you ask people, what is this law based upon? What's the consequence? It's based on the Quran.
After Islam happened, there was a lot of war.
What do you mean after Islam happened?
After the Quran was invented or created or passed from
Right.
whatever you would say about
After the revelation was finished, yeah?
Yeah, that. After that period, there was a lot of war still going on. There's a lot of killing, a lot of murder, violence, rape, everywhere all over the world.
So what?
I don't think it's been reduced. As far as I've read in history, you've said that women have been given rights. But
Are we in a war right now?
Yeah, there's wars all over the world, everywhere.
Are we in a war right now?
No, not here, no.
So do you see?
Was
Even
Muhammad
suffering,
here? Was Muhammad here?
even suffering,
I thought he was just in the
even
Middle East.
suffering is place specific and it's time specific.
You're saying that because there's multiplicity of gods.
If you're
that
saying just
causes-
because the prophets
Let's go back
come,
to the point.
there
Let's go back
can't
to
be
the point.
wars now,
Let's go back to the
or
point.
they can't be murdering now, they can't be killing now, it doesn't make sense.
Let's go back to the point. You're saying that because if there was a multiplicity of gods, yeah, that would make us suffer. Yeah, that's your point. We would suffer because.
No, my point was if there's a multiplicity of gods, the conflicting wills would cause havoc
Where on earth here.
everywhere.
Right. Okay. Cool. But according to the mythology of the ancient Greeks and according to the Indian Hindu tradition, which you said, they lived a lifestyle that wasn't under that condition that you're saying.
It was.
fine. No, but it wasn't. But if it was, then it was as equal as it is now. So that doesn't. cause-
So let me clarify. You're saying God's fighting is the same as humans
So
fighting.
their principle of there being gods in heaven, you're saying it would cause conflict on earth. It doesn't cause. It didn't cause any conflict.
Do
on
you
earth,
believe-
according to the Hindus? According
Of
to the
course it
Greeks.
did.
And if it did, it was
Yeah.
equivalent to what it is now. No different.
So you're saying God's fighting is the same as human beings fighting.
No, I didn't say that. When did I say that?
You're saying because that happened over there, is the same as what's happening right
I'll
now.
give you an example. So you're saying that because if there was a multiplicity,
You're not being
of gods-
intellectually sound, to be honest.
You're saying that to avoid the question.
I'll answer your question.
You're saying that if there was a multiplicity of gods, there would be havoc on earth. What do you
Yes.
mean by that? People fighting in wars, yeah?
Yes.
Cool. Right. The
Not
Hindus-
people's fighting in wars. I made this point clear. Gods would be fighting with each other to enforce their own will.
Yeah. How do you know that that's not happening if you can't see the gods?
Because we don't believe that there's multiple gods.
No, but how do you know is what I'm saying to you. That's the question, isn't
But that was initially right at the start of the conversation. I said there can't be an infinite regress of dependent things. There has to be a necessary being. I tried to undercut. I tried to undercut everything at the beginning, but you just weren't having any of it.
You found something there, you didn't. The argument is that if there's a multiplicity,
We'll say that again.
you think you found something and you're trying to show me, but you haven't found anything.
What?
Yeah, the argument is about
What do I
multiplicity of
think
gods.
I found? I've just made a point.
Alright, the argument is about multiplicity of gods.
Yes.
That would cause a havoc on earth. Yeah?
Yes, multiple gods fighting.
I'm wondering how does that happen?
If they're fighting, it would affect the rest of creation because they're God.
Alright, now,
I don't know why it's so difficult to
No,
understand.
because if that's happening, if it was happening now, say. Yeah,
That's because there's not multiple gods.
If that's happening, if there are multiplicity of gods,
Right.
how do you know that that's not happening right now? When we are all the wars
It's not
today
logical,
because of that.
right? It's not logically compatible to accept that there's a multiplicity of gods.
Now,
It's
what's the logic to that?
it's
to show
it's
that not
unsound.
happening?
It's the argument I made right at the beginning that you didn't want to listen
I don't
to.
understand it though. I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, that's fine if you don't understand it.
I don't think anyone would understand that. How is it that because if there
Well,
was a
you're saying
multiplicity
an
of
argument that's been put since the time of Leibniz, was put since the time of Avicenna. It's calmed down years. Even the Greek philosophers accepted it, and you're saying no one accepts it.
Stop this. Listen, why is it because if there was a multiplicity of gods, why does that therefore mean there must be havoc on earth? Why? That's what the logic I want from you.
I'm just repeating the same thing again and again.
Because you're not giving me an answer. How does it prove?
I'm giving an answer, but the answer doesn't make sense to you. That's why you keep repeating the same
Does it make
thing.
sense to anyone here? And if it does, tell me
Okay,
how.
guys,
Tell me how.
does it make sense to you?
No,
Look,
tell me. He
if
said
there's
yes.
5 gods,
Wait, he nodded confidently. Tell me what he's saying.
I'll try. So like, when we say gods, right?
Yeah.
You can't have 3 ultimate wills, right? It's like as Muslims we say God is independent, right?
That's not
if
what
you
we
have
say.
3, if you have 3 when we say gods, we say 3.
One latte.
no, Jazakallah. I don't drink coffee. Allah bless you, brother. Allah bless you.
Right? And like you hated him on the tree, right? If one independent being says, I want it to be red, and the other one says blue, the other one says green, right? If they have to compromise, they're no longer independent, they're dependent. They can't be gods.
Why?
Thank you,
If they
brother.
want,
God bless you.
they clash. If they're independent, they can't stand each other.
But why does that mean that there's going to be?
So he's understood what I said, yeah?
No, but wait, if there's
Now you're challenging him.
I'm going to ask this question.
Okay, that bottle.
Yeah. Right. So God has free will.
Keep going. Make your point.
That bottle, right? Suppose you put the bottle down, right? Suppose I'm the father. I got independent will. Suppose he's the son, independent will. You're the Holy Spirit, independent will. If I say it has to be lifted, he says no, keep it on the floor, and you say throw it away. What happens?
But if there was free wills, you're assuming
Independent.
you're assuming that they're going to conflict. You're assuming
Because we're
that.
independent. We're humans.
Oh,
Just
wait.
like it's gonna happen,
Why-
but
how do you know that just because they're dependent, that necessarily means that they will argue and conflict? Because why?
they're independent, right?
Yeah, but why does that mean? they'll
Because
conflict?
it's by definition conflict of wills. There's a conflict.
Wait, let me answer.
When we say the Creator, they're all powerful, independent, right? Their actions cannot depend on someone else. If I'm if I'm the Father, I'm all powerful. He's the Son, all powerful. Your Holy Spirit, all powerful. But if I say lift it, he says no.
No, but you're assuming. But I've already heard that. I've already heard that. You're still not showing me.
We're human beings, it's fine.
Yeah,
we're
no, I
not
get
a
that.
clash, we're not.
Yeah, you're still not showing to me how just because they're independent.
So he's not showing it.
Yeah.
I'm not showing
You're
it.
not.
It makes sense.
No,
Okay,
you're
listen.
going to say that.
So
Wait,
this.
can I
Let me
ask
pick
you-
someone else. Let me
Wait,
pick someone
just
else.
say it. Wait. Let me just finish it. Yeah? Just because they're independent why does that, whatever, yeah? Why does that necessarily infer that they're going to conflict with each other? Why does it, you just assume that? You assume that, yeah? Alright, cool. We don't have proof on that, right? Cool. That's my point. We don't have no proof that there is going to be a conflict just because they're independent aspects. No, you have to assume, yeah, fair enough. You make assumptions, and I'm going to assume that we don't know. I don't know.
How can you assume that they have to?
No, I don't know, that's what I'm saying.
No, but you didn't say that though.
I'm just saying you don't
Your
know.
point was categorical, and now you said I don't know. You've changed your
I've always
position.
said you don't know. I've always said I don't know nothing about this. I'm just trying to say, if that's that, then that can't be that. That's what I'm saying. You can't say that there's three independent wills and they're necessarily going to argue. There's no proof that they necessarily have to argue. That's the whole point.
The example that I gave, if one says, no problem, no problem. We can just wrap up. The point was that if three different beings with three different wills want the tree to be a specific color,
You're assuming this now, yeah, if they want that.
yeah, then how do we decide what color the tree is?
What's your ethnicity?
So the father says red, son says green, blue. How do they decide what color the tree is?
If the three powers are conflicting,
Yeah,
then
how
then
do?
we've got a problem. But you can't prove that.
But why do we have a problem?
Because if they're all arguing about what colour the tree's going to be, we're going to have a multicoloured tree. But we don't. We have green.
But that's the thing. That's the point that we're saying. If they're all powerful, they have a will.
You don't know that they're doing that.
There's a probability, right? And the fact that there even is a probability makes it like a fallacy. The fact that there even is a probability of that happening, that's why there can only be one
There's a
God.
probability that there is, and there's a
If there's
probability
one
that
God,
there
it
ain't.
eliminates even that small
No, but if
probability.
there's a probability that there is, there's a probability that there ain't.
Yeah, but what the brother's saying, that if there's a conflict of,
If there's one God, there will never be a conflict. That's what we're trying to say.
Yeah, no, it doesn't prove that. If there's a multiplicity of gods, that doesn't show that there's definitely 100%.
But there is a
going to be.
probability.
but the chance of there being a conflict increases. If you have one person,
Because the chance increases doesn't prove nothing.
it does.
It doesn't prove nothing.
I'll tell you what it proves. It proves rationally multiple gods having multiple.
Yeah, it's a chance, but it doesn't. We don't know. I'm from Belgium. We don't know. Yeah.
Do you?
There's a chance that we
Is there a chance you don't exist? Is there a chance you don't exist?
There's a big chance. Because I have some According to Plato, you know, we're all living in.
Forget Plato. Is there a chance to you that we don't exist?
There is a chance. Yeah.
Is there a chance that you could be a spaghetti monster? Well, that's the point,
There is a
bro.
chance. There is
You know
a
when you
chance.
start thinking that, life becomes an absurdity. No, life becomes an absurdity.
There's a probability of this and a probability of that. Therefore, we have to accept the
There is no. In science,
because it's less probable that a singular God would not do that. Let's choose that. That's what
the,
I'm
the
saying.
inference to the best explanation tells us. The inference to the best explanation tells us it makes sense that there is one God as opposed to multiple gods. If there were multiple gods, the inference to the best explanation suggests that if they have wills, if they have all power, they will most likely conflict. Let's at
I
least.
wouldn't say it's most likely.
Nah.
I wouldn't say it.
That's ridiculous.
What happens in heaven or above there, we can't understand or comprehend. We're not going to know how sophisticated.
Well, that's
things
why
are.
we have rational capabilities. If we just sit and say, I don't know, then nothing gets done.
And there's one aspect that's all-knowing, one aspect that's all-powerful, one aspect that's logical, one aspect that's calculative, whatever. These things will work together to comprise a universe. And if you look at the Elohim in the Jewish tradition, there is an esoteric tradition in the Judaism religion that says that the word Elohim is a plural, and it's the powers of God that created the universe, not one God. Yeah, if you look at even the word Elohim, it's a plural. It's not singular and plural. So there's that confusion there as well.
So they believe. So you're saying that they
it,
believe
but
in a multiplicity.
No, they don't. They believe in a singular God. The esoteric reading, the proper reading actually, is Elohim, which is not Eloha, which means Elohe is one
But if
God.
they don't believe that, who are you to tell them that that's what they
Read
believe
the
then?
book. It says it in the book. The Hebrew
Then
translation of the
wouldn't
word
their
Elohim
scholars
is
have
God.
figured that out by now?
I've asked these guys here. They say yeah.
They're not Jewish scholars.
I've asked these Jewish guys here. They've
Okay.
said- they've said-
I thought you were pointing at these guys.
No, the guys at the bottom. The other,
Okay.
Josh.
All right.
The other ginger guy. I spoke to them. They say they do not believe in a plural God. But I've showed them this book and I said, why is it Elohim, not Eloha? And they said, We don't know. That's the only reason. The only reason why we believe that, because tradition tells us Elohim is a singular. So it's written as a plural. You can see it yourself. It's written
You
as
seem
a plural.
very much invested in this notion that there is a multiplicity of gods. You're proving it in Judaism, in
I'm seeing
Christianity, and now you're doing it with Islam.
That's
There either is or there isn't. It's more likely.
Well, the writing says the Elohim implies plural, but they say it's singular.
Which makes more sense, one God or multiple gods?
This is what I'm trying to find out. I don't know.
Now, what makes more sense to you?
If it makes sense on both sides. Like the one God can have multiple powers, but then one attributes, and then it makes sense also that multiple attributes can take the form of gods as well. So I can't say that one or the other is right or wrong. Both
So
make
James,
sense.
have you-
And there's both doctrines for both sides.
Right. Have you had a chance to read the Quran, or are you in the process of doing
Scanning
it?
it and reading it. Because
If you want one, we have one here,
I
yeah?
wanted to talk to you guys more than read it because I
No,
think,
read the Quran first,
yeah, I'm going to read
and
it
then
as well,
come.
but I want to talk to you as well because
You can talk to us as well.
it's the ideas that I've got are what I'm looking for. I'm not trying to read it in I know it might seem offensive, but I'm not trying to read it in a religious sense. I'm trying to read it to find things that I want to find in it, because I'm seeing other religions that have the same things in it, the same elements. So,
But in order for you to learn about a religion,
I think the first
yeah,
thing, I think
you
the
should
first
go
thing
to
was-
the main text.
Yeah, I think because I'm trying to learn all religions, it's quite difficult to sit down and read one Quran.
Quran is very small. It's not going to take very long.
It is short,
Yeah.
There is a lot of other, the Hindu texts are very long.
They are.
The Vedas,
Indeed.
the Christian early church fathers, their work. I've got all of their books, and it's like it'll take me.
But the
3
Islamic
years.
Quran, it's manageable.
But then I'll have to read the hadiths.
You don't have to read the hadiths.
That's what Christians say about the Bible.
Primarily, the Quran is a good beginning for you to say, I've read the word of God. Then the hadith you can read at your own pace.
I think the best beginning is to understand, first of all, as Plato did, the idea of one and many. That is the best thing to understand first. The idea of monotheism and polytheism, how all things can come from one thing, creation from nothing. These kinds of concepts first.
I would also,
Once I'm acquainted with them properly, then once I've read the cosmology in these religions, then I can understand them more.
But the thing is, when you're talking about one and many, and you're saying, okay, it looks like it says this or it says that. If you read the Quran, that's the word of God. We believe it's the word of God. No individual was inspired,
No, it's nice to believe
The point that I'm trying to say is that's your go-to. It's all kudos to Plato for saying this or that. But in order for you to, the Quran, that's my point.
But it was nice talking to people because
No, likewise, it was good talking to you as well.
Yeah, I'll come back next week and we'll chat again maybe.
Take it. I'm just going to take the mic off you, yeah? I'll take care, my friend. Was it still working, yeah? You could hear everything?
Is that going to go on YouTube?
Yeah, probably, yeah. Yeah.
It's good to look back at that.
Yeah, just see, discussions or whatnot.
Does he know the channel or does he go into your channel?
He's familiar. He knows Joseph and these guys, so. Assalamu alaikum, brother. How are you?
How you doing, my brother?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
So I just set up